What's up, guys? Welcome to this edition of a Funko Popcast. I'm DK Wrestler.
And I'm MD Shady.
And in today's podcast, we are going to be basically talking about different Funko retailers that, well, for the most part, they have their own exclusives, but just in general, some of the big names as terms to where some of these Funko exclusive pops go to and kind of rank what we think about them. However, we will give a shout out though to the smaller retailers first, of course, because of course there are some awesome retailers that don't have that big of a name at the moment, although we wish they did and they had their own exclusive. But this is basically based off of the bigger name retailers that we see a lot of exclusive pops from. So I guess I'm going to mention probably mostly the American ones, since a lot of our viewers are from the US. So a couple that I can think of, I mean, of course, we are from Canada, so we don't order from the US too often. So a couple that I will mention, I think a lot of people's favorites that I could think of off the top of my head are Poppin' Off Toys. I know that's a huge fan favorite in the States, so shout out to them, of course. Brad's Toys in Las Vegas, which I have ordered from. There was a little bit of a mishap one time when I ordered because they shipped it with the wrong service and I got charged duty fees when like the whole process I shouldn't have. But I believe they like solved it with like reimbursing me with partial fund from the shipping, which is cool. So at one point I will order from Brad's Toys again, which actually they do have their own exclusive pop, that being, I believe it's Tenya Ida from My Hero Academia that came out this year. So that's pretty cool. And then of course there's retailers like Plastic Empire that I guess we can shout out, which actually has that limited to 3,000 piece plutonium Marty McFly that unfortunately I probably will never be able to get at this point. And then I guess the Mighty Hobby is all I can think of from the, I'm sure there's a lot of retailers from the States that you guys enjoy that obviously I didn't mention because of course I'm not from the States, but just shouting out those smaller retailers. And I'm sure there's a lot of Canadian ones that we can name. I'll let MD mention any off the top of his head. I'm sure there's going to be one huge one that we'll both mention, I guess.
So when it comes to retailers in Canada that we have both actually been to, the first name that comes in mind to me is actually Play and Collect, which is no longer around, unfortunately, but they did have at least one exclusive, that being the Volt Boy Locksmith. That's what it was, right?
Yeah, it's from Fallout.
From Fallout, yeah, which I do actually own that pop. We went there and got that, so that's pretty cool. And then, of course, the other big one that we really want to see an exclusive go to is K-Dog and Fish. Our boys, yeah, they're awesome. The store's great, and I think they're definitely deserving of a exclusive or even multiple, because that would be really cool as well.
Yeah, so if we were definitely rating K-Dog and Fish 10 out of 10 when it comes to the way that they pack their pops and ship and just overall customer service from both K-Dog and Fish. But nonetheless, we do have, I think it's 15 different big name retailers that are known for having a lot of exclusives from Funko. Some of them, obviously, they still produce a lot of exclusives for. Some of them are kind of winding down because there are a couple that are starting to wind down on their exclusives and soon may not actually have their own exclusives. So I actually put them in alphabetical order here. So I think the first one that we got to talk about, and something that a lot of people do talk about, is Amazon. Of course, a lot of people use Amazon not only for Funko Pops, but other necessities, of course, with the existence of like Amazon Prime. There's been a ton of different Amazon exclusives, which for the most part, I feel like it's kind of a 50-50 for Amazon because there are some cool exclusive pops, but for the most part, especially recently, we've been seeing Amazon have exclusive pops that are either like, for the most part, glow in the dark of a common pop that already exists, or for the last couple of years we had a lot of those artist series pops and then the VHS covers that they've been doing. So those ones are a little bit meh, but off the top of my head, Amazon exclusives that were like bangers, the only one I could think of off the top of my head that like isn't a remake of a different character would be like Towley from South Park. I think that was cool. Should also mention that Amazon, they are very iffy when it comes to their shipping.
Yeah, so Amazon's a difficult one because I do love Amazon. It is very easy to purchase items and get them very, very fastly. But when it comes to Funko Pops, there are definitely some gripes. Like DK said, glow-in-the-dark pops are ridiculous. One that I can think of right off the top of my head is from the Treehouse of Horror line for The Simpsons with the Devil Ned Flanders. You have the comic common pop, and then you have the Amazon exclusive, which is just glow in the dark. Instead of getting that pop, I'd rather see Amazon get a whole new mold for a brand new character. But there are some cool Amazon exclusives. I believe like the Toy Story covers, that was an Amazon exclusive, right?
Mhm.
That one John Cena pop was an Amazon exclusive, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Kramer in underwear, that's an Amazon exclusive. So there are some good ones, but a lot of it is not amazing. But we are kind of seeing that as a common trend for some different retailers anyways. I think the big thing to talk about is the shipping, because it's just brutal most of the time. I've ordered multiple pops off of Amazon and it's a gamble. Sometimes you can order pops, like just common pops, let's say, and they might come fine. And then sometimes if you get those Amazon exclusives, they'll come in their own sorter and they're normally fine. But I've had times where I've ordered an Amazon exclusive, let's say, what was the one that I got? The Young Obesius from the Simpsons lineup. It did not come in a sorter. It just came in a box with barely any protection, and the box was absolutely dickered. Even though the shipping's free and fast, it might not be the best of quality.
For my rating on here, I actually have to put it 5 out of 10. Like, it's literally, we talk about 50-50. That's a perfect rating because there are some cool pops, but there's also some garbage pops in terms to just a specification. And then the shipping on top of that is literally 50-50.
Yeah, when I looked over the different retailers we were going to talk about, I instantly knew that Amazon is exactly a 5 out of 10 because it does have some good sides to it. I mean, free shipping most of the time, depending on what you're getting, the fast shipping, but it's a risk. And like you said, with the 50-50, 5 is the perfect number to give Amazon. There's no other way to do it.
So the next retailer is actually 2 retailers, but the whole theme behind it is the same, except 2 different names. So that's both Barnes & Noble and Books A Million. They are book retailers that so happen to hold Funko Pops. And I don't know how they are when they ship their items, because obviously those are US retailers. Here in Canada, we would technically have Indigo. So I've never ordered from Indigo and don't really know. And they're all like kind of in the same family. So I find, let's say if Funko is in a board meeting and they're trying to determine where each of the pops are going as terms to an exclusive, Books A Million and Barnes & Noble is that retailer where Funko, if they're literally stumped on trying to think where they're going to send it, it's like, oh, just give it to Barnes & Noble. Just give it to Books A Million, because they get like the most random exclusive pops. Like, it's not really like an occurring theme like you see with some retailers that we're actually going to be talking about in a little bit, where you do see some sort of like notice of like a trend or a theme where certain pops are going to, while with Books A Million, it's just so random. Like, you would think because it's a book retailer that like book related pops would go there. Like, you do see some Harry Potters, and there were like the Stephen King pops, which those made sense to go to. But then you get these random ones. Although there were a couple of banger Books A Million pops that actually released this year in 2023 as we're recording this, non-book related, but Ruben from Lilo and Stitch and the, I forget the exact term, 332nd Command Trooper or something like that, the Ahsoka Clone Trooper from the Clone Wars. Those were Books A Million exclusives and were pretty banger, but for the most part, it just feels like these are literally afterthought retailers where if they can't decide where they're going to send the pops to, they're going to send them to there.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that for the most part. Back when we first made the channel, I felt like Barnes & Noble, at least, they were definitely getting pops that made sense to go there. But as we're seeing the years go by, like, we are seeing some weird exclusives, and it's a weird store. Sometimes you watch those YouTube videos of different YouTubers that collect Funko Pops that'll like go into a Barnes & Noble and see if they have like the New York Comic-Con exclusive that's going to that store at the time, and sometimes they don't even have it, but sometimes they do. But it's so weird, and the way that Barnes & Noble, it seems that they keep their pops is just so weird. Like, sometimes it's just like a table and there's just pops on it, which is kind of interesting. And then sometimes you do see those like end cap kind of displays. Definitely not one of my favorites. I don't even know if I have a Barnes & Noble exclusive in my collection. Not too sure. I definitely have a Books A Million, I believe.
Yeah, and when it comes to this, I got to rate it super low, and I actually have it as a 3 out of 10, only because for the fact that like not a lot of pops that have been Books A Million or Barnes & Noble exclusives are in my collection or I've had interest. The only one I actually can think off the top of my head, they did a Toy Story 4 Bo Peep pop that was exclusive to Barnes & Noble and was actually, I think, one of the last pops that had the decently okay Barnes & Noble sticker before moving to that ugly dark green sticker with like way too much space on the bottom.
So going now 2 retailers in, I don't want to seem like a follower, but 3's the number I had in my head as well. I mean, there's just nothing that I'm really interested in when it comes to exclusives at Barnes & Noble, and it's not really a store that I'm thinking like, yeah, I'm going there for Funko Pops. I would rather go there to buy some novels.
So the next retailer I've listed is Box Lunch. So Box Lunch is a sister company of Hot Topic, and they kind of run the same thing where, of course, and we'll mention about Hot Topic also, where like they have the cool, which is not called Hot Cash, it's called Lunch Money, where it's the coupon 15 off of 30, you know, the whole drill. And Box Lunch, for the most part, I think is pretty cool. I've never actually been to a Box Lunch. Unfortunately, I've never been able, since actually being a Funko Pop collector, able to go to the States, not having a passport. But I believe MD actually has been in a Box Lunch. So I guess he'll tell you his experience, or he's nodding his head at me. He hasn't. I thought for some reason he has. But nonetheless, I do notice, once again, we talk about themes. A lot of Box Lunch's pops are Disney pops. So I feel like a lot of Disney fans really enjoy Box Lunch for the sake of the Disney merchandising, not only for Funko, there's a lot of Disney merchandising overall in that store. For the most part, I find a lot of their awesome exclusives. I can't think of all of them off the top of my head, but they were a lot of Disney. They have dabbled in recently in a lot of anime pops. And then one that I could think of that isn't any of those that was recently done and is an awesome pop we both actually have in our collections, not with the Box Lunch sticker, but the Green Goblin from Spider-Man No Way Home. What a wicked pop, and a great way to show off a version of Green Goblin that isn't, let's say, the unmasked one and put a metallic specification. If that was the case, that would have went to Amazon, like we talked about. But yeah, nonetheless, Box Lunch is at least from videos I've seen, it seems like a pretty cool store. It's a sister company of Hot Topic, so I assume it has kind of similar vibes when you walk into there.
Yeah, so I actually have not been to a Box Lunch. I have ordered off of their website, which I have had good success with. Everything was great and the products are cool. My mom has been to Box Lunch a couple different times. My kitchen manager also has been to Box Lunch. So I really want to go because I love the store. I love the different products they have in there, and the exclusives aren't that bad. I do have a couple different Box Lunch exclusives in my collection, one being the flocked Simba from the live action Lion King, and then of course the Green Goblin, which I do have in my collection. So yeah, Box Lunch, I really enjoy Box Lunch. I really love the store. The exclusives aren't necessarily really like for me, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing because it can be good where you have a specific set or a couple different sets of pops that are focused for your own retailer, where I'm sure we'll get to Hot Topic fairly shortly, but Hot Topic is a little bit more all over the place, whereas with Box Lunch, like you said, with Disney and anime, that's definitely a good thing in my opinion.
So for Box Lunch, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. I find, especially, yeah, I've also ordered from Box Lunch and it came in minty fresh with a nice sorter and everything. I don't know if it's because it's kind of what I think about with Hot Topic, where international shipping, so they need to like really treat their pops so they don't have to deal with like having to resend it because box damage and stuff like that. But for the most part, a lot of exclusives that I've gotten were from Box Lunch. Like a couple that I just thought of now are two of some of the best Office pops they've done were Box Lunch exclusives. Actually, my favorite Office pop is a Box Lunch exclusive. That is the Jim Halpert as Dwight Schrute. And then they also did the Kevin Malone with the tissue box shoes. That was a Box Lunch exclusive. So they do have quite a bit of awesome exclusive pops compared to a lot of retailers, especially ones we're talking about today.
I think I'm going to go with a 7.5 out of 10. I want to give it an 8, but I feel like that's just a little bit too high. But yeah, like DK said, there are some pretty cool pops there. Like I also do have that Kevin Malone with the tissue box shoes, and that is one of my favorite Office pops. I love that one so much. One of my favorite moments from The Office itself. I just feel like there's not enough that's really catered to me. That's definitely just my own doing. I mean, there's some exclusives that you just don't want to get.
Next up, we have ourselves Chalice Collectibles, which is a store I've actually ordered one pop, I believe, on the website. But Chalice Collectibles, once again, with themes, very anime heavy themed. And there's a lot of anime pops, and especially obscure anime pops where it's characters for the most part. You'll get some that are the glow in the dark, kind of like the Amazon theme with glow in the dark of already existing commons. But there are a lot of obscure characters or characters that never had pops before, like recently announced by Funko, or actually Chalice Collectibles themselves, is is Minoru Mineta from My Hero Academia, who is a character we've known since season 1 of the series, and finally gets his own Funko Pop after them making Pop since 2017 for My Hero Academia with the glow-in-the-dark chase, which that's also a reoccurring thing with Chalice, is that a lot of their Pops, they do have a chase and it's glow-in-the-dark for the most part, but they have dabbled outside of just anime. We have gotten a Clone Wars Pop in Darth Maul with the Darksaber and his lightsaber, and then speaking of Office, you guys will hear a bunch of me saying The Office because that's one of my big sets to collect, is the first ever common and chase, I guess I would call it, of Dwight Schrute basketball from season 1, where he's got the shirt for the common and then the chase is no shirt, which is really awesome to do as a chase. And I would manage to get at a decent price both of those Pops, not from Chalice Collectibles, but off of eBay.
So Chalice Collectibles is a weird one for me, mostly because it is just anime, which is fine. I mean, I do collect some anime Pops and enjoy a lot of animes, but the weird thing is that it's the chases. Most Chalice Collectibles have a chase, it feels like, and most of the time it is just a glow chase, whether it's a really cool glow or just a little bit lackluster or kind of unneeded. That's up for debate, I suppose. One thing that I do love about Chalice, though, is that if you do have, let's say, a random anime Pop that does have a chase, they give you the option to buy a full case of 6 Pops and you're guaranteed the chase. That's something really cool that you can do, or you can just gamble it and buy 2 and hope. And I've definitely seen our buddy Sean has done that from Chalice before, where he'll order 2 Pops of the same Pop that has a chase, and sometimes they're pretty good about it. He's gotten lucky a couple times where he only had to order 2 and got the chase. But being able to order 6 and guarantee yourself that chase is something that's really, really awesome, especially if you're like me and DK, where we go to toy shows and we resell Pops, where basically you can take your common, you can take your chase, add those to your collection, and you can take your 4 other Pops and then try to resell them, get some of your money back, recoup some of those funds, and then you do have that chase. The only downfall is that the chases generally aren't that good. So if it was like amazing chases, then I could really love this whole concept, but because they're not that great, I don't personally care about it too much.
So for my rating, I put a 6.5. I know that's a bit lower than like some of the ones we talked about, actually higher than Barnes & Noble and Books A Million as I look at my list. I think it's mostly because, yeah, it's the whole anime thing. Like, I don't really buy a ton of anime Pops. I do like how they've kind of branched out for different varieties, but then at the same time, also as a Canadian consumer, $20 shipping US for one Funko Pop is a little too much. And imagine the shipping it would cost plus the duty fees if you were to get the 6 Pop bundle with the chase.
So that is actually good that you had mentioned that, because I had a number in mind. I'm changing my number. I'm going to go with a 6. I think Chalice is really, really solid, but that is a lot for shipping. I mean, when you're paying more than the price of a Pop for shipping, that's ridiculous. If you're other places like in the States or maybe wherever else, it might be better for you, but for us, it's just not that good. But besides that, I think they're pretty dang solid. One thing we haven't talked about is this, like the stickers that they put on the Pops. Really, you did mention the Barnes & Noble one. The Chalice sticker also just isn't really that great in my opinion.
Next retailer is Entertainment Earth. This one's a bit of an iffy retailer, considering that they've had some solid exclusive Pops. I can't exactly think of, besides they've done quite a bit of cool blacklight Pops. I mean, recently they did the Eddie for Stranger Things, and then we also have the Gremlins ones of Gizmo and Stripe. And I can't think of, off the top of my head, more Entertainment Earth exclusives, but I know that they dabble into different varieties of Pops. Like, you'll get Disney, you'll get anime, you'll get Marvel, DC. They're not stuck to a certain theme like a Chalice Collectibles with anime or Box Lunch with Disney for the most part. They will explore different options, especially Stranger Things. It's a part of the television lineup. So that's pretty cool that they do that. Entertainment Earth, obviously, once again, I've never ordered from there because it's the US. So I know they do offer international shipping once again with 20 US, I believe. The thing that's very iffy about Entertainment Earth also is that on their website, they guarantee guarantee like minty fresh shipping, but there is quite a bit of horror stories of people receiving their pops damaged. So it's like, why are you guaranteeing this minty fresh shipping when a lot of times you're not close to, but being like Amazon shipping where it's almost like 50-50?
Yeah, Entertainment Earth is a solid one for the pops they get. They get a huge variety of different things. Looking over some of the pops that they get, I mean, they get anime pops, they get Marvel pops, they get Star Wars, there was even WWE with the Rock pop that I actually recently just sold. That was a pretty cool pop. So they definitely do get a lot of cool stuff, especially with some of the blacklight pops that are just so awesome. I love blacklight pops. But yeah, with the guaranteed shipping, I definitely have heard some of the horror stories. And unless they're like gonna give you your money back and let you keep the pop, or like if they're gonna offer you like free shipping back, like they send you a label or something to ship it back, they'll give you a new one, then I don't even know why they guarantee it. But I don't know. I don't mind Entertainment Earth at all. I do have a couple different pops. That's a sticker that I kind of enjoy as well. It's a big sticker on the box, which can be good or bad depending on the pop and where it's placed, but it's kind of a clean sticker. I like how it looks. That definitely goes a long way with me.
But as terms of the rating, I put it as a 6 out of 10 because not only do they have a nice variety of exclusives, but I think it's the fact of always guaranteeing like minty fresh shipping, but then like not really kind of going behind that, I guess, in a way where a lot of times you could get a really bad damaged box. So I think that's what bumps it down from being like a pretty decent high number, like maybe like an 8 or a 9.
Yeah, I have to agree with the 6 on this one, for the reasons DK had suggested, but also because it's just a retailer that we can't just like access. You can't just walk into an Entertainment Earth. That definitely goes a long way as well, because retailers that you can do that, that's kind of ideal. You don't want to order online. You don't want to have to pay the shipping. You don't want to have to take the risk on whether the box is going to be good or not. You want to find a nice box in a store. And when we get to some of those stores, we'll definitely talk about some of that. But yeah, 6 out of 10 for Entertainment Earth.
Next up is the Funko Shop. Of course, there is a lot of opinions about the Funko Shop, but I gotta kind of take it back to like when the Funko Shop was first a thing. Some of the greatest pops in history are Funko Shop exclusives. I'm sure there's a ton that we can name off, especially the ones that just like sold out. The days of the Funko Shop when you would see an item go online and may not be super popular, but boom, sold out in like 30 minutes, sold out in 5 minutes. Or the people that would be kind of ridiculous and say, it sold out in 30 seconds. Off the top of my head, I mean, those limited piece holiday pops, like especially I think we were just looking at your collection there, like Animals, like 4,000 piece from the Muppets, Johnny Bravo and Dexter being released at the same time in, I believe, the pandemic age of 2020. So Funko Shop, for the most part, when it comes to exclusive pops, not talking about a lot of pops that they have nowadays, have been some of the greatest pops in history. The way that they ship their pops now is a little iffy compared to back in the day, considering like obviously through the years, because they are now a publicly traded company, they've kind of had to find ways to ship pops that aren't so cost efficient.
Yeah, I mean, some of those OG Funko Shop exclusives were just unreal. I mean, the Flintstones, of course, those holiday stickers. So it is one of those retailers where you can get multiple different stickers. You can get the classic blue sticker, which is just so iconic. I love that sticker. That's one of the nicest stickers to see on a box, in my opinion. You can get the red and green stickers for the holiday ones, which is really cool. And then you have like the limited piece count stickers too. So there's a bunch of different stickers, which is awesome. The pops used to be so good. There's still some pretty good Funko Shop exclusives, not gonna lie, but it does seem like we're seeing some more stuff that could probably just be thrown to like a Hot Topic or a Walmart or like a public store like that, rather than just being on the Funko Shop. And of course, for us, it does suck that we can't actually order pops from the Funko Shop to ship to Canada, which is just ridiculous. I don't know why they don't open that up to be able to ship to Canada. Even if we did have to pay, like, let's say, a little bit more in the shipping, I think me and DK would both agree that we'd probably do that, especially when it comes to those really awesome Funko Shop exclusives. But with that being said, Funko Shop exclusives are not like the hardest pops to come by. You can find them. You're going to see them at your Comic Cons. You're going to see them at toy shows. You're going to see them at like maybe like some comic book stores or flea markets, different things like this. It's not like they're just, you can only find them in the United States. That's not how it works. They will come to Canada, which is a good thing. I don't know. This one's got to be one of the higher tier ones for me for sure. I really like the sticker. I think it's just so classic. And of course, there's just so many different licensors that have had Funko Shop exclusives that it's hard to compete with Funko Shop. I mean, it's Funko themselves. How can you really hate on that?
So for my rating, and I feel like MD might actually rate it higher than mine, I put it as a 7.5, which I think actually is the highest rating I've done thus far on this podcast. The history of Funko Shop exclusives, some of the greatest pops in history, so that takes into effect. But like also the pops that we see nowadays are just like and especially with like when's the last time we've seen a Funko Pop sell out on the Funko Shop now? But take into account of what's happening now with the Funko Shop with back in the day, I think 7.5, maybe even an 8 is a fair rating for the Funko Shop.
Yeah, I'm going with an 8 on this one. I mean, there's just not that many flaws. I don't think pops selling out is the worst thing necessarily. And especially when you're going to be one of the ones to order them and then, oh, it's sold out. That sucks. Because then, like I said earlier, then you have to kind of rely on your different stores or your different like cons and toy shows like that to access those pops, or then you got to turn to eBay, which I've done, of course. But yeah, I'm going with an 8. I mean, the exclusives are just so good. The sticker is so good. It's Funko itself. If we were in the States, I think this would definitely be a different scenario. If we could actually get these just online on the drop, it would definitely be a lot different. And I think I'd probably bump it up another point.
Next retailer is FYE, For Your Entertainment, or the Canadian version here is called Sunrise Records, which soon will be rebranding to FYE Canada, even though Sunrise did buy FYE. It wasn't the other way around, but nonetheless, I mean, FYE is the more well-known name. But FYE, once again, I can only relate because of Sunrise, which gives the same vibe. It's like a record store for the most part. It mainly sells music or DVDs or stuff like that. And the pops, this is what I'm going to mention about the pops. When there was first FYE exclusive pops, I felt a lot of them, they were bangers. Like there were some really cool pops. Some older ones I could think of are like the Reptar from Rugrats with like the cereal bowl, and then like the unplugged Kurt Cobain pop that I've mentioned some horror stories about not buying it at a very cheap price. Now it's pretty pricey a little bit, but that pop is really cool. There's some really cool pops, but look at FYE and Sunrise Records between, let's say, the late 2010s to today is some of the most garbage exclusive pops that are out there. And for the most part, it's just specification pops. It's not even like, let's take a character that's never been made and make it exclusive to FYE. It's literally like I've seen for the most part, like metallic exclusives, or you look at the Dragon Ball Z Majin Buu, like pink chrome. Like it is just some of the most garbage exclusives that I notice out of a lot of these retailers. It almost gives the feel of what we mentioned about Barnes and Noble and Books a Million earlier, where it's kind of like a last minute retailer, at least nowadays. It's almost like maybe even more rare than a 1 in 6 chase where you'll find a great FYE exclusive nowadays. But I don't know, FYE is just not as good as it once was.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. Like, there have been some really good pops at FYE, like DK said, with that Kurt Cobain. An amazing pop. One of my favorites from one of my favorite Nirvana moments of all time. Definitely a necessity piece in my collection. But yeah, some of their pops are pretty junk now, and they're sitting on shelves. They're not really selling. It's sad to see because we have a Sunrise that is pretty local to us. We go there quite frequently, and you can find these pops, which is an amazing thing. But when it's a pop that you just don't care about, then that whole thing just negates itself. Sure. For example, like I can not find a golden nugget, let's say. It's impossible to find in the store, but that chase to get it is amazing. Or you can just find a dog poop in every damn park you go to. And that's Sunrise Records or FYE. So that's the best way to put it, in my opinion. It's just, they're good. They get them, but it's just not that great. And FYE is a store that I love, so I'm not knocking the store at all. It's just the exclusives that they get aren't that good. And that could just be Funko's doing. They're not giving them those great exclusives. They're just giving them some lackluster pops that end up sitting around for a while.
And then one thing I guess I should mention about FYE, I don't know if they still do it, but I remember watching earlier Top Pops videos and remembering that FYE also carries, because if you can't order online or don't want to order online, Entertainment Earth exclusives. So it would be FYE exclusives, and then you'll find a new Entertainment Earth exclusive. So that was really cool in case you didn't want to order online and if you were iffy about ordering stuff online. But the rating I have is a 6.5. A lot of the exclusives are not the greatest besides some of those OG OG FYE exclusives or the ones that you get like here and there. But for the most part, especially when it comes to shipping, if I'm comparing it to Sunrise Records and not FYE in the States, their shipping was all right. It wasn't the best, but it wasn't the worst either.
I'm going to go with a 5 for FYE. I feel like it is kind of just that middle of the road. And like I said, like because their exclusives aren't that good, being able to find them in stores just doesn't really make you feel good. You're like, oh, here's an exclusive. Oh, I don't care about that pop.
The next retailer we're talking about is GameStop. Now, at least for me, and I'm sure MD2, we're going to be a little bit biased because GameStop for me is awesome. I love going into GameStop. For a while there, though, there was a time, at least GameStop Canada, where we weren't getting a lot of stock. We'd wait like a few months before new pops came in. But like recently, within the last 6 months or so, we've been getting new stock once a week, once every other week. So it's fairly frequent to see new pops instead of the same one sitting there. But now I also got to compare like the exclusives that go to GameStop, and especially trying to compare like GameStop US with like GameStop Canada. So for the most part, I love GameStop. It is the closest retailer to me, so I visit it quite frequently. I love the variety of exclusives. This is one of those cases where, like, for the most part, for the longest time, their exclusives were just based off of video games. I mean, you got, like, multi-packs for PlayStation games like Ratchet and Clank and all these other video game related, but they have expanded, and I feel like a lot of my favorite pops in my collection that I've been able to get have been GameStop exclusives. We've gotten a couple of solid Office pops like Santa Phyllis, there was Michael Klump, and then even one of the lineups I collect, WWE, has had some banger GameStop exclusives like Big Boss Man, and just recently that came out and I seen it, and I actually wish that I actually seen it while I was at GameStop today because I seen it a few days ago, was that new Ultimate Warrior in the Hall of Fame box. That thing is a banger looking pop. Yeah, for the most part, a lot of GameStop exclusive pops are pretty sweet, especially of characters that we've never had previously into pop form. I usually don't have a problem with GameStop. Once in a blue moon, I will get a pre-order in and somehow the box is just completely smashed, but that isn't like too much of a problem because if I see it like in minty fresh condition on the shelf because they have extras, I'll just be like, hey, I would like to switch out my pop. And they're pretty much fine with that.
Yeah, GameStop is pretty dang good, and there's many reasons for that. I don't necessarily have to talk about just GameStop Canada because GameStop in the States is a place that I visit. I used to go more frequently than now. I haven't been there in a couple months now. I used to go quite often, but GameStop is awesome. They get a lot of different exclusives, which is good. You get your anime, like you get WWE pops, which are really cool ones. The RVD is so sweet. I love that pop. I love that it comes with the pin. That's really cool. There's just a lot of different GameStop exclusives for games too. I mean, of course it makes sense. It's a game store originally, so it makes sense for them to get games pops as exclusives. And the whole thing about being able to pre-order pops is really good. You can basically guarantee that you're going to get that pop without having to go on the hunt. For some people, that might not be the best because some people want that thrill of going out and finding the pop, getting it in the wild. But when it comes to like a pop that you're like, I have to have this in my collection, I don't want to have to pay a ridiculous amount for it, you can get it at retail if you go to GameStop for the most part, especially with those exclusives that they get, which is so cool. And of course, I do have, I'm an Onyx member for GameStop, so I do save like 15%, I believe it is, on any like collectibles or used items at GameStop. So those exclusives are even cheaper for me, which is so good. And I also am a member for GameStop in the States where they give you a couple different things. I think like each month you get like $5 to spend in store. I think you get like $5 around your birthday, similar to like what Hot Topic does.
So as terms to rating GameStop, I got to give it 8.5 out of 10. I think for me, that's fair, especially you brought up the whole pre-order thing. And it's also pre-order $0 down. You don't have to pay a single dime.
Yeah, it definitely seems like at least every third day I'm in there, there's at least a few new pops there, which is amazing. And yeah, the pre-order thing is amazing. And that's why I'm giving it a 9.
Next retailer is Hot Topic, another like fan favorite retailer for us, at least. We love going to Hot Topic whenever we can. It's not too often because it is in a different city and not in the one that we live in, but nonetheless, always a nice vibe. You get to look at the huge wall of Funko Pops. Although nowadays I remember back in the day where like you can easily find at least a couple of pops and walk out with it. While especially the shelves nowadays seems like they're flooding with those random Hot Topic exclusives like the My Melody or Hello Kitty pops that just like they're gonna rot on the shelves, or you get those random exclusives no one really cares about. Of course, the existence of Hot Cash is awesome. I mean, 15 off of 30. I mean, same thing with the lunch money, but with Hot Topic also, I also love using, and especially if you're a Canadian, I've mentioned on the channel, is using Hot Cash to alleviate international shipping costs. Because if you do have 15 off of 30, then you're taking 15 off of 20 for international shipping, and then you're kind of like paying, even though it's like regular price, but when it comes to online, you're not paying so much for shipping. So I like doing that, even though the conversion can be wonky here and there, but having the ability to just walk in with like 5 different Hot Cash coupons, and then like if you're buying like so much and you're able to use all those at once, that is great, so that you're not spending so much. So even though it may seem expensive at first, and then you get the Hot Cash, but then when you use them a Hot Cash season, I love Hot Cash season, it's awesome. For the most part, a lot of their exclusives are great. Some of my favorite pops that I own are exclusive to Hot Topic. Once again, you're gonna be sick of me saying about The Office, but Prison Mike, Hot Topic exclusive. Hot Topic is one of those things that like they are so all about pop culture that like a lot of your favorite moments from TVs and stuff and characters will be a Hot Topic exclusive for the most part. They are kind of anime heavy like Chow's Collectibles, but they are also like they branch out. They got a lot of Disney pops. They got a lot of TV pops. I mean, there's a decent amount of pops. It has been wonky the last couple of years, but for the most part, I remember being so excited about a Hot Topic exclusive. Dark Magician from Yu-Gi-Oh! I was so pumped when that happened. And then nowadays, the new Blue Eyes Toon Dragon. So Hot Topic, what a great store to go into. Wish there was one in our city.
Yeah, Hot Topic is awesome. And I'm going to start talking about the Hot Cash first. Hot Cash is awesome. It's sweet to get Hot Cash. It's like one of the best coupons that you can get, honestly. Sometimes you're not going to find all the stuff that you want to find normally during the Hot Cash season or like the redemption period. But even then, I feel like it's easy to spend the money. Like they're just selection of like t-shirts and stuff like that. You can easily get rid of your Hot Cash and get basically 50% off. And like you said, with online, that's a whole nother ball game where you can alleviate that shipping, and essentially you are paying almost the same price or maybe even a little bit more for the pops online, but you're not really relying on like going to the store and being like, okay, let's see what they have. It's like, no, this is all the stuff here. You can get basically anything you want, especially when it comes to like exclusives. But most of like the newer pops that you're gonna want to get, you'll see on Hot Topic's website, which is awesome. The sticker is so sexy as well. I love that yellow Hot Topic sticker. Of course, there was the red one from a few years back that we've seen pop up every once in a while. But like DK said, the selection at Hot Topic recently hasn't been the best. Like they still have a bunch of pops, but I remember when like back, I'd say like 2015 to 2018, when our local Hot Topic, they had like the pop section right in the back of the store. And it was like a huge wall all the way up to the ceiling of a ton of different pops. But the exclusives there are just kind of top tier, I would say. Like most of them are really, really good. And one thing that I also want to mention before I forget about it is that I think most Hot Topics do this, but I know that 100% that ours does this, is that they have their own Instagram page and they'll basically post the night before what's going to be in stock, especially when it comes to like Loungefly as well as Funko Pops and sodas the next day, like what's going on the shelves the next morning. So you can like kind of scout it out and you can like say, oh, okay, I got to check the Instagram page to see what they're getting. And then you're like, oh, this brand new exclusive that I really, really need. I'm going to Hot Topic tomorrow and I'm going to snag it right in the morning, which is so great. It's an amazing thing that they do that. They do limit things and they do have like, it's nice that in their posts they will show like, okay, we have 3 of this pop, we have 5 of this pop, and we have 30 of this exclusive, which is good. Then you can know like, okay, I might be able to get here like a couple hours after they open and still be able to get the certain pop that you want, or you might have to schedule around that and go early in the morning. But either way, kind of that like heads up is just amazing.
So originally, as terms to rating, I had it as an 8, but now that you mentioned all those points, and especially ones I'm going to mention, I'm actually going to put it at a 9. Especially one thing you didn't mention is during certain periods, you'll get like a $5 thing for your birthday or the anniversary of when you started your account with Hot Topic. So I really like that aspect. And then, yeah, the aspect of like knowing like the day beforehand on like, oh, and like scouting and all that, especially when there's a common you want and there's a chase, because a lot of times, especially if there is the common and it says we have 6 of that and you know that there's a chase, the chase is going to be there. So if you're like first in line, you're able to snag a chase at retail in the wild.
Yeah, I got to agree with the 9 on this one. And yeah, like TK said, where you get different promotions. If it's your birthday, if you spend a certain amount, you get like a $5 off coupon. There's a ton to save money at Hot Topic, which is great. I don't think I've ever walked into a Hot Topic and not left with at least one Funko Pop.
Next retailer we're going to be talking about is Target. Oh, Target. I've never been inside of a Target besides the ones they used to have in Canada before we even got into collecting Funko Pops. I know you were just at a Target like within the last month or two for the USA Pop Hunt that you did for our channel. Target is one of those, once again, almost like FYE, where a lot of their exclusives were really bangers. And now it's like this reoccurring trend of something. And I feel like that trend is like a bunch of 10-inch pops of like normal common pops. Like it's kind of getting out of hand. And then especially they flood the shelves with comic book cover pops recently, and a lot of the build-a-scenes are Target exclusives. It's just, yeah, Target is getting a little ridiculous on their Funko section and just the pricing of their Funko Pops also, because I find a lot of their exclusives are sometimes more than pretty much any other Funko retailer store. As terms to cool Target exclusives, I mean, I guess you can mention about like the Bullseye ad icon pops because it is Target's mascot. Fat guy in a little coat, Tommy Boy, that's one that I just randomly thought of. But I don't know, I can't think of any other Target exclusives off the top of my head, but there have been some bangers. But lately, within the last couple of years, Target exclusive pops have been trash.
Yeah, there's definitely been some cool Target exclusives. One that comes to mind is like Bazooka Joe for the ad icons. Of course, you have your different bullseyes. I love Target. I actually mentioned a couple weeks ago while I was at work, I said to my coworker, I said, I wish I was inside of a Target in the States right now. And he looked at me, he's like, what are you talking about? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I just like being at Target for whatever reason. I feel like it's because I've been going to the same Target since I was a little kid. I don't get to go there too often, of course, because we're going to another country to go to Target, but I just love being there. And the Funko Pop section is actually pretty good now. When I first used to go, it used to be like, I almost couldn't even find it. Like it was non-existent almost, but now it's been pretty good. It's never in shape or like tidied, I guess would be the best way to say. Like you would see at like your Hot Topic where they're all uniform. You have all your different sets together for the most part, and like you have your doubles behind another. Target, it is just a bloodbath. It's just a bunch of pops, dig through them and find what you want. That's okay, I guess. It makes it a little bit more fun, especially when you're looking for a chase, because you're definitely digging behind pops that like aren't even like, let's say you're digging through some Simpsons pops and then you find an anime pop behind there that is a chase. That's kind of cool. But Target has such a bad rep, and it's for a good reason, because they do a lot of things that are just not the greatest. Street dates is the biggest thing, I feel. Target is so well known for putting pops, wrestling figures, a bunch of different items out on the shelves before the street date, and then you get up to the register and they're like, oh, we can't sell you this. It's like, okay, well, why is it on the damn shelf? Which just really, really sucks. That's got to be heart-wrenching when you go to a Target, find a pop that you've been wanting, and then you can't buy it. And especially for someone like me, where it's like, okay, well, I'm not going to come back here in 3 more days to come buy this pop. I mean, I'm coming to another country. I'm just not coming back for like another couple weeks at least. So then you're basically going to miss out on that pop most likely, which is unfortunate. And then there's also like the whole like thing I remember like back years ago, probably in like 2017, where like people would go and ask like, oh, can you check in the back for this? And then the workers would just be very, very rude about not checking in the back for different items like that. Shipping, I don't think is great from Target. I don't really have any experience with it, but I've heard bad things about the shipping from Target as well. So yeah, I love Target so much. One of my favorite stores to go to ever. But when it comes to Funko Pops, not the greatest, like DK said, especially with all those 10-inch pops.
Yeah, funny thing you mentioned about like the whole street data thing is I feel like Target's the cause of a lot of these Comic-Con exclusive leaks, because you'll see photos of these pops and it's like, oh, who has these pops? And it ends up like Target workers are like, oh, there's a Funko Pop. It must go on the shelf, not knowing that it's supposed to be, let's say they put them on the shelf freaking May 29th. I love how I just used my birthday right there. But they're supposed to be released like July 26th or something like that. And then we know about this before Funko can even announce, because Target's just this big retailer store, like big box retailer store that just doesn't give a about anything or anyone. So they just do whatever they want. So as terms of that, and their poor quality shipping for the most part, although I have seen a couple of photos recently of some people getting them in decent condition, 6 out of 10 for Target.
I think I'm going to go with a 5 out of 10 for Target. I love going to the store. I kind of like the idea of their pop section kind of being a little bit disorganized. But when you have gripes like that, where like the street dates really suck, that's a thing that just is really a bummer. The exclusives, we haven't really been getting a lot of good Target exclusives. It's got to be a 5 out of 10 for me.
Next retailer is Toys R Us. Toys R Us is a store, of course. If you're from the US, you obviously would love Toys R Us and how it was. And then they filed for bankruptcy, I believe, 2017, 2018, but it never closed down here in Canada. We always had Toys R Us still during this time period, even though there are some stores actually opening up. I think they reported like 24 of them opening up in the States again. So maybe we'll see a resurgence as terms of Toys R Us exclusives, but some of the Toys R Us exclusives were pretty cool that they've done. I can't remember exactly like any specifically off the top of my head, but there were some cool ones. And I mean, I guess recently I'll mention about any of the Jeffrey mashups. Those are cool. Toys R Us for the longest time, especially when it stayed in Canada and never like filed for bankruptcy here, like was amazing to go to with the amount of different US exclusives we couldn't get from there. But they would have that ugly special edition sticker. Oh, God forbid that special edition ribbon sticker. Thank God it's gone. I love the new one much better. But for the most part now, like the last year and a half, 2 years has been flooding with so many commons. There's so many pops that they just have too many of. And especially like they made so much room for Funko that just now it is ridiculous. And they're trying to get rid of. They shortened their Funko section the last year or so. And now Toys R Us has been reporting of actually getting out of the Funko game as terms to Canada. And you see that with like the way that they're shortening down their Funko section, and the fact that the last Comic-Con that happened as of this recording, which is New York Comic Con 2023, Toys R Us was not a retailer as terms to shared exclusives, when normally they have 3/4 of the Comic Con exclusives for every con. But now they've been taken out, and and I guess it's good that I saved it here, is that GameStop is starting to become the Funko Shop of Canada, which I guess I did mention that on a pop hunt you guys would have seen earlier this week on the channel, which I guess is better for GameStop to do it anyways, because GameStop is awesome. But Toys R Us is just, and especially the whole, I think what really changed it was the rule of like, and especially the order online, no returns. It's like final sale. You can't bring it back and get your money back. Kind of like how you can do with a store like Hot Topic or GameStop. It's just final sale. And especially Funko Shop recently implied that rule also. So that was kind of a bummer. And I don't remember the last time I actually went to Toys R Us and bought even one Funko Pop, because the section is so sad.
Yeah, I think I got to agree with most of what DK said there. I mean, Toys R Us is an awesome store to go to, and I'm thankful that in Canada we still have ours and we haven't lost our one that we've been going to since we were kids. But when it comes to Funko, yeah, it's a lot of the same stuff. Like it's been like multiple pop hunts after pop hunts where we're seeing most of the same stuff just kind of sitting there. They do get some new stuff, but it's some stuff that maybe we just don't really care about. And there have been some cool exclusives. One that I do have in my collection that I do plan on selling is Bailey from WWE. That was a Toys R Us exclusive that I got on clearance at Toys R Us. But yeah, it feels like recently, like the last time I went to Toys R Us, I did buy a few pops because they did have the Jeffries that I wanted of the TMNT mashup. But besides that, like the last like 4 times I'd gone to Toys R Us, it felt like every single time I was going there, I was not buying Funko Pops and I was only getting sodas, which they get a pretty good selection of sodas there, which is nice, or Funko Gold, which is nice because you can find chases there fairly easy, and that's basically where I've bought most of my Funko Golds. I think that's only because they haven't had Funko Pops that I wanted, because if they did, I'd probably pass on some of these sodas or some of these Funko Golds. It used to be awesome to go to Toys R Us and look at the Funko Pop selection, but now it's the same letdown almost every single time.
So as terms to the rating, and especially with how they ship items overall, I gotta give it 5 out of 10. It is just, it's not what it wants. If we were rating this in like 2017, 2018, I think it could have been one of those like top tier Funko retailers.
Yeah, it is unfortunate that it has. I'm going to give it a 4.5. Yeah, it used to be so good. I remember going, like, when we'd go to Toys R Us, it would be like, oh, we're going to Toys R Us. We're going to find something today. And now it's like, let's go check out Toys R Us. And of course, like I said, it's usually a letdown.
The last retailer we are talking about, Walmart. Walmart. As terms to Walmart Canada, it is literally like walking into a cemetery when it comes to Funko Pops. At one point, we thought there was going to be this huge hope when it came to Walmart, at least in Canada. But I'm going to talk about a little bit of the Walmart States first, because Walmart States for the longest time had really cool Funko Pop exclusives from different TV shows, movies, WWE. Walmart was really cool, and especially some of their selections, like you could find some cool stuff, Pop and Tea bundles. It was kind of like what we're seeing with like GameStop right now with the way that they have their pops. Like it was pretty decent, but then when it comes to online, they were literally the worst retailer as terms of shipping pops. They didn't pack it with bubble wrap or anything. It's just slap into a box, empty, boom, here you go, USPS. And then sometimes in-store is ridiculous because some of the pops, especially the 10-inch, they have those stupid, like, I don't know how to explain this, like they put the circle thing with like the wires around it, and then when it's too tight it scrunches the box. Like that was ridiculous. But then going to Walmart Canada, it's like a cemetery. You barely seen anything. It seemed like there was something that was going to be amazing with that, where when we got stuff like the concert moments, it's like, oh my god, are we finally getting in Canada the Walmart US stock like we should be getting? And it seemed like that. There are some decent amount of exclusives, but now I just went to Walmart last week and it is the saddest I've ever seen it, by seeing 4 common Claude Giroux pops sitting there. It is so bad. They are actually starting to get out of the Funko game. Also, there was a photo posted recently of like clearance sales of a lot of items. Funko sodas being as low as $1 in Walmart US, which is absolutely ridiculous. And if you haven't seen that yet, I believe it's on Disc Tracker's page actually, where you can see a bunch of these exclusives like $5 pops and $1 sodas. But still, Walmart is so sad. I feel like I might as well say my rating already, and I'm giving it like a 4.5 because it's so sad to see that section now, and it's so sad to see the shipping that they have always done with their pops.
Walmart. Oh, God. Here we go. So, Walmart is bad. Let's just get that right out of the way. And it's not even just the Funko section. There's other sections where it is just really, really terrible. It has been so bad for so long. It feels like years that I've been looking Claude Giroux in the face. I like Claude Giroux. He's an awesome hockey player. Loved him. Loved the Philadelphia Flyers. Obviously not one of my favorite teams, but I do like the lineage and everything. But that being said, I'm so sick of looking at this damn Claude Giroux pop. I'm so sick of looking at the Lucha Libre Marvel pops. It seems like so rarely they were ever getting anything new. It was always the same like 15 pops maybe, and then like the same case of like Five Nights at Freddy's mystery minis. I think that's what they had there. It was just the same case that just wasn't selling. None of the pops are selling. They weren't putting anything on clearance where there's a toy rack of clearance items at Walmart. Put them on there. You'll get rid of them eventually. It's not even just our Walmart. It's any Walmart around here that I would go to. Like I went to one that is a few hours away. Well, not a few hours, but a couple hours away. We just had stopped there just to say, hey, let's go check it out. It was like almost even worse than ours, and I couldn't believe it. And then even when I went to the States, I went to the Walmart and I was expecting the best. I was like, this is going to be sick. They're going to have such a sweet Funko section. And it was garbage. It was bad. Every box was mangled, and there was a Bella Porch covers, whatever it is, albums, I guess. And the whole like plastic case that it comes in was just shattered pretty much. And they had a clearance sticker on it. No, don't put it on clearance. Get rid of it. Send it off to Treasure Hunt or wherever, whatever company is going to take this to sell at a discounted price. No one's paying $18 that it was on clearance for a broken Funko Pop. Not to mention the other store that I went to that they had a couple different albums and different like comic book covers. The pops weren't even like structured down to the bases. They were just loose inside of the plastic case. You could shake it and they'd go all over the place, and it was just terrible. Walmart has been bad for so long, and it's very disappointing because if Walmart was good, a good chance they'd be the best, because Walmart is Walmart. There's a Walmart everywhere. but they are so bad. And I guess I'll go right into giving my rating on them. It's a 3. I mean, it's just the worst.
Anyways, guys, that is going to be the end of this edition of a Funko Popcast. And if you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know your favorites and least favorite Funko retailers to go to. And I hope to see you guys on another edition of a Funko Popcast or any videos on our channel. 1, 2, 3, I'm out of here.
We need new retailers. Peace in, peace out.